Have you ever thought of starting your own business? Making your life your own? Now's the time. To get started. Welcome back to Starting a Business Simplified. I'm your host, Suzy Wraines. And in this episode, I am going to continue on the entrepreneurial healing trauma journey. So I started talking about my entrepreneurial journey and how it helped with my trauma healing. And one of the things that came up was boundaries. That's what this episode is going to be about, is we're going to talk about boundaries and how it is in our business, ways that we can actually reinforce those boundaries and maybe make some new ones. So before I dive into the episode, I want to talk to you about the community that we have. It is Starting a Business Simplified podcast listener community. It's in Facebook, and it is a private community where you can come and ask me questions and interact with the other listeners. So as you're listening or watching this podcast, I don't get to interact with you. You don't get to raise your hand and say, hey, I want to say something. So in this community, you're actually able to interact with me and the other listeners and come on there and just share what it is that you're experiencing in your entrepreneurial journey, or get support, ask me questions. And I also go in there live and I talk about the podcast, what's going on with the podcast. I also actually go in there live with guest speakers. So they share their professional experience and everything that they're doing in their business. So it's a great place to come and get community and interaction with other entrepreneurs. As you're starting out, or if you're shifting in your business, we can't have enough other entrepreneurs around us to learn from, grow with, and experience this journey together. So I invite you to click on the link in the show notes and join the community. So that's enough about that. Let's jump into the episode. Boundaries. A lot of you might not think that boundaries are something that happen in being an entrepreneur, but I will tell you that mine have been tested. I'm going to give you a list of some of the boundaries that have come up for me as a business owner that made me realize that I needed to change how it is that I structure my business. One of them is I work with clients. So having clients means it's time, money, and commitment. So let's start with time. When you first get started, you're going to want to show up all the time, everywhere, doing everything, because you're new and you want to get out there. You want people to know who you are and what you do. It happened to me. When I first started this podcast, I overbooked myself with guest speakers, with making connections with people, and just so that I could get the word out. This is who I am and what I do. And that can happen. So having boundaries around your time is key. Some of you might be listening or watching this podcast and saying, I work a full-time job. I don't have a lot of time. So this is even more important for you, is making the boundaries around the time that you have for your business. When I first got started, I worked a full-time job. And in that full-time job, I had time that was set aside. I had to work in my job. I couldn't do anything else. And so when I would come out of work, I had it set up so that I knew on one of my days off, I was going to work in my business. I allocated the time and I committed to it. And that's when I worked on my business. Until I was able to leave my job, I committed to the time that I committed to for when I wanted to work on my business. That's something that you can do. Let's go back to boundaries. When you have a thinking that you need to show up all the time, no matter what, because you're starting your business and there's this pressure to be successful. And it's like, if people say that okay, I'm going to give you a real life example. I've had clients who are like, I can't meet with you on this day and time. Hey, can I meet with you on Saturday? No. No is a complete sentence. I'm not sure who said that first, but I like it and I'm going to use it. No is a complete sentence. No, I don't work on the weekends. That is my boundary. That is my time boundary. And even if a client is like, I'm paying you, can you show up? No, no, and no, and just no. I don't even have to tell you why. I set it up in my business that I do not work on the weekends. So no, I am available. However, here's the times I'm available next week. Being okay with saying no. And a lot of times we just want to pull it on ourselves and go, but they need me. They need to talk to me. They need to be they need coaching, or they need something. They. When really we are an example to our client. When I say no, I can meet with you the following week. They're seeing an example of me setting boundaries. They are seeing an example of, oh, I'm in charge of my time. You, the business owner, are in charge of your time. Yes, we want to be available for people to be able to help them. And that is true. To an extent, you want to set up your time. And guess what? People will come when you're available. They'll rearrange their stuff to see you. It's just how it is. Just like if you go to the doctor. When you call to go to the doctor and the receptionist says, I have 2 appointments available, this one or this one, which one do you want? You don't haggle with them and say, can you ask the doctor if they'll come in on their day off? Because I really don't want to come on those 2 times. You figure it out. You either say, okay, that week doesn't work. Can we look at the future week? And you just move it out. You make time to go to the appointment. The same goes for your clients. We need to be examples and teaching them what it's like to set boundaries. So that's time. Now we have the other piece of that, which is money and commitment. So money, again, no is a complete sentence. If somebody says to you, I can't afford your services, can I pay you XYZ, which is less? You can say no. And I know in your head and in your nervous system, you are going to be saying to yourself, I just want the money. I need the money. I got to make this business has to work. Guess what? There's somebody behind them that will say yes and pay the full price. You do not have to take something lower. You set the boundary and you stick to it. And again, you are an example. So I have an example of this for myself. Again, I use myself as an example. I'm the best example I have. I had a person that was interested in working with me, and we were having a conversation, and she asked how much I charged. And I told her, I said, for this package, it's this package is this. And I gave her all the breakdown. And I said, which one would you like to book with me? And she said, I can't right now. The cost of it is too high. And she also prefaced it with, I love how you told me what your pricing was and you were confident. This is what it is. She said, you, Suzy, are as an example to me, and I want to be that way with my clients. She said, I can't afford to pay for it right now, but when I do, you're the person that I want to work with because I want to have that confidence in my pricing and saying what it is and sticking to my guns and just saying, this is how it is. Would you like to work with me? She said, it was a beautiful example. And I remember that. This happened over a year ago, and I still remember that. And I go, yep. And I have people that pay my prices every day, and it's totally fine. So being okay with saying no, with a client saying no, and just being like, that's okay. They have their boundary, you have yours, and we stay in our own boundaries, and it's all okay. People will pay for you. There's going to be somebody behind them that's ready to hire you. So staying out of the I need to take this client. And do I want to take this client? I give discounts to clients all the time. They're people I want to work with, and I'm the one extending the discount. I'm in charge of it. That's my boundary. If I want to give somebody a discount, I'm the business owner. I can do that. Now, I'm not going to take a discount from a client who's trying to haggle with me to get my pricing down, because then I'm no longer in my boundary. It's not my control. Take your control of your business, follow up with what's good in your boundary. Now, the last one is commitment. And commitments to me, they fall under time, so calendar, and money. So time and money are in the commitments. When you are a business owner, if you're working in a service-based business, and it doesn't matter which one, you should have an agreement written out that you sign and the client signs. What you do is, this is your committing to. In that contract or agreement, you're going to say the client is XYZ. They are paying me this amount of money, and this is what I'm promising to give them for this amount of money. They are committing to doing these certain things. So if there's a requirement, and I'm going to use dog grooming for an example, just because it's easy. So say I'm a dog groomer. I'm going to give them an agreement. It says, I'm going to groom your dog. So what type of dog is that? So I'm going to be descriptive. Either I'm going to name the name of the dog, Scruffy, and they're a schnauzer, and I'm going to groom them. They're XYZ years old, and this is how much I'm going to charge. And here's all the services they're going to get: wash and shampoo, blow dry, and trim. I'm going to list them out. And I'm going to say in there, drop-off time is 10 minutes prior to the appointment that's set. This is the requirements for the owner. I will call you when they're done. I'm going to put all of that in the agreement. I agree to call when they're done. You agree you're going to drop off 10 minutes early, and we all agree on these different things. And then both of us sign, and we're good to go. Collecting payment. Again, getting the agreement signed, collecting the payment, scheduling the appointment. All of these this is how the commitments are made. It's with the client and it's with the business owner through an agreement. So we have an agreement on the money, we have agreement on the time, we have agreement on the service. Everybody's in agreement. And this protects you as the business owner and your client. So if any questions come up, you go back to that agreement and you read it together and you see the answers to any questions that come up, because they're going to be on the agreement. So making sure that you have an agreement. Now, I say all of this, boundaries. Part of my healing journey was addressing some of these things head on. When I overbooked myself for my podcast, I had to go into my calendar and go in and contact people. This is in the first year that I had the podcast. Contact them and say, I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to record this episode. I had too many on my calendar. I was only one person. If I had done all of the appointments that I had set, you guys would be listening to recordings that I did over a year and a half ago now. And I wouldn't even be doing new recordings. You probably wouldn't even be hearing this one until 2026, because I just overbooked myself. I'm only one person, and I wasn't going to do a brand new episode every day to fill in the gaps. That was just way too much. So I had to learn and heal through, because in my trauma experience, I was an overgiver. I would give. And I knew that these guests that were coming on, this was going to be a way for them to share who they are and what they do. So this was a benefit to them. And I felt bad, but I didn't have the boundary. I didn't set up my calendar boundary to say, I'm only going to take 1 or 2 guests every 2 or 3 months, or whatever the time frame was. I had back to back to back to back. I didn't know. I was new, and I didn't understand my own boundaries. I was just like, work hard, Suzy, do the job, do the thing, work really hard, got to make it happen. And that's not the energy that actually works. I did an episode not too long ago where I talk about, when I relax and I take time off, I get more clients. When I relax and take time off, I actually make more money, because in our relaxed state and in our energy, the universe has time to go out there and bring things to us. We're magnets. We are manifesting and bringing things to us all the time. Never stops. So by taking a break and just taking a breath and going, I'm going to take some time off, it gave the universe time to catch up. So it's like people start emailing me and people start calling, hey, I want to work with you. I want to work with you. Money starts coming in and it's like, whoa, what did I do? I took a break. I did a whole episode on this. So you might want to go back and find that one. I can't remember what it's called. There's too many episodes for me to remember, but I did talk about that, and it's just relaxing into the receiving. So for those of you that are thinking, you're listening to this episode and you're like, okay, Suzy, this sounds all great. Boundaries, great. I don't have a calendar app. I don't have a way to do contracts. I don't have how do you do all this stuff? Like, how do you keep up with it all? That's something that I teach your back office. So I do a workshop every month, and it is Back Office Simplified. How do you set everything up? What do you need to get started? And I teach that workshop every month. It'll be coming up. You can find it on my website, startingabusinesssimplified.com. You'll see where the workshop is, and you can sign up for whenever's convenient for you. When this episode goes out, I'm not sure what month we're going to be in, so I can't tell you what month and day and all that stuff. Go to the website, check it out. I'll put a link down in the show notes to the workshop, and you can pick a day and time that works for you. I teach the Back Office Simplified because this removes all those places where you might get stuck figuring out your boundary. It's got calendar, invoicing, the money piece, the contract piece, agreement piece. So I teach all of that. And in my mentorship, working with me one-on-one, the Business Success Accelerator mentorship, I set all this up for my clients. If you're interested in hearing about that and want to know more, I set up the entire back office and we get you going so that you can start taking paying clients right away and get your business accelerated and off the ground and moving in the first 90 days. If you're curious about that, click on the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me. I would love to talk to you about that and explain to you how it is that you can get started right away. And it takes away all of the stress around setting your boundaries. Once you know what they are, the system handles it for you. You have contracts in place. You have the money part taken care of. You got your calendar in place. That's all taken care of. Time, all your projects, to-dos, everything is in there. So I would love to talk to you more about that. If you're interested in that, please click on the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me. So the takeaway from this episode, what I would love for you to do, this is something you can do now, is on a piece of paper. I always go back to pen and paper. On a piece of paper, write out your time boundaries. When are you going to work on your business? Write that out. If you're working full-time, when do you have time that you want to block and say, I'm going to dedicate time to working on getting my business started? For those of you that are working on your business full-time, and this is you're already doing it, I want you to list out your boundaries for your time of when you work on things. How much time do you spend with clients? How much time do you spend working in your business? And make some boundaries around that. When do you take a break? Oh, there's a tricky one. Write out how often during the day do you take a break from your business? I put it in my calendar. I did a calendar audit last month, and boy, that was a game changer. I added in my calendar breaks, lunch, all of that, and all my appointments go around it. So I take time for myself. Taking a break is a big, big boundary, and it's important. So you can walk away from this episode with, I'm going to write out, what are my time boundaries? Write out your money boundaries. What is it that you are going to say yes to, or you're going to say no to? Either one or both when it comes to money. Taking money, spending money, however you want to look at it. But map out your boundaries around that. And then your commitments. Think about what it is that you want to commit to your clients when you're working in your business. How much time are you committing to them? How much are you committing to them outside of the one-on-one appointments you have with them? If you're a service provider and you do one-on-one appointments, how much time do you spend outside of those calls for your clients? And create some boundaries around that. That'll go into your time and commitments boundaries. So as always, I hope this episode was helpful and gave you things to think about. Come join us in the community. I would love to see you in there. And as always, keep it simple.